Fill me in.
All right. Well, good afternoon. For the record, Representative Emily Krasnow. And I'm here today to talk about H567, which is a common sense animal welfare and consumer protection bill that will prevent the sale of dogs and cats in any additional pet stores. We are lucky that the puppy selling pet store industry is small in Vermont, with only one known store selling puppies. That store will be able to continue to do so while we avoid an influx of bad actors who are looking for safe havens and who have track records of importing puppies from Midwest puppy mills and bringing so many issues to the communities they sell puppies in. With this bill, we would join 7 other states and 480 localities across the nation in enacting this policy. This bill is based on Maine's law, which is also grandfathered in existing stores and which has been working as planned since 2019. Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New Jersey are also considering similar legislation this year. H567 is a business-friendly bill that will not impact the vast majority of pet stores in the state that already do not sell puppies. Instead, the profit from a products and service model, and some partner with shelters and rescues to host adoption events. It also won't impact responsible breeders who sell directly to the public, never through third parties, and gladly welcome puppy buyers to their homes because they have nothing to hide. This bill ensures that as other states prohibit pet stores from selling puppies, we don't become a target for bad actors who sell puppy mill puppies to unsuspecting consumers. New Hampshire made this mistake a couple years ago, thinking they didn't need a law like this. And then last year, a controversial puppy store chain, Puppy Palace, opened in Manchester. Public records show this store is importing puppies from puppy mills in the Midwest. And they have been accused of mistreating puppies, selling sick puppies, and engaging in predatory lending when people balk at the expensive price of their puppies. Let's not make the same mistake here.
Questions from the committee? Representative Templeman.
This includes cats and kittens, right?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Cole, do you have a question?
I'm ruminating a little
Okay.
bit on it.
I have a couple more things to say, but I wanted to give a pause unless.
Let's see, Representative Levitt.
No questions so far. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
You may continue.
I'd like to also dispel some of the myth that you may have heard from opposition. There is no evidence that humane pet store laws have led to unintended consequences. And the opposition relies on hearsay and focus entirely on California, which is also the most populous state and thus has more of all kinds of scams, while ignoring the other states and 480 localities with these laws. The only evidence of scams as a result of California's law were those employed by the pet stores who set up scam rescue networks to keep selling puppy mill puppies. We can all agree that Vermont's pet sector is thriving, and this bill won't change that. The one store that sells puppies can keep doing so, and our market remains wide open to the $136 billion pet retail industry that is focused on pet products and services. Humane pet stores laws work. Public records show that there are 32,000 fewer dogs confined in USDA licensed puppy mills than 10 years ago. As humane pet store laws have stopped about 1/3 of puppy selling pet stores from selling puppies from puppy mills. How many times can you say puppy? Shrunk by 1/3. Plus, humane pet store laws drive consumers to shelters, rescues, and responsible breeders where so many of the consumer protection problems posed by puppy stores do not exist.
Senator Bryce.
I haven't fully dug into the oppositional resources we've been provided with over the last couple of days by a few out-of-state organizations. But I did notice that one of them was sort of specifically going after the California law. And do you have anything? You said this is based on Maine's. Are there differences between Maine and California's laws that we should be?
That's a great question. So I believe, and our legislative council might have more on that, but I modeled this, I believe so in this modeled after Maine and a few other New England states, it grandfathers in current stores, which again, we are lucky that right now there is only one in Vermont. So I'm not sure if California's law didn't grandfather. It's just a very different animal, if you will, California than Vermont. But that's a good question. I am not sure. I just know that what inspired me was seeing Oregon and Maine and a few other states do this legislation. I also have personal experience when I was a kid growing up in Vermont. We used to have a dog and cat store that sold very sick puppy mill puppies and cats in our mall in South Burlington. And when my dad was very ill when I was a kid, we got one of the puppies and we didn't know. And that dog was very sick and she lived 3 great years with us. But when we talk to them, they destroy the animals that are returned when they often are sick. So that's my personal experience here in Vermont.
Other questions? Would you mentioned an existing store, an exemption for an existing store that would be grandfathered in, just one. Is there anything you'd like to add about that?
Well, I will say that store is also in South Burlington, where I live. And, that is up to you if you choose to take this up, if you want to change that. As mentioned, I modeled it after states surrounding the area and what I thought was best. I can tell you that there are practices, they are not all the time having dogs and kittens there, but it does happen and it's on their website as well, talking about that. But again, that would be up to you and the route that you took if you chose to keep that.
Representative Cole.
Seems like the anti-advocates are, keep using the statistic, especially relating to California, that scams relating to puppies increased by 350%. And I just looked up the source and it was just like one source, but I do know where they're getting that number from, or maybe better, like, do you see how there could be any opening for new black market puppy?
I mean, in Vermont, like we have a very different model than what's going on in larger states. I don't see that happening. I see it strengthening partnerships. I know there are also a lot of other animal welfare bills that are going on right now. I've met with that could help in some of those sections. I've met with a lot of breeders and adoption agencies, and they're all very supportive of this because they believe that it will help eliminate a rush. Again, what we saw in New Hampshire is really concerning, where we may not have huge problems here right now, but the bigger concern is that if we don't do something now, then there could be a rush for other folks to come to Vermont with the dogs or cats that were in surrounding states.
Mhm.
And that's a big concern to me. But as far as that specific data point, I don't know. I'd be happy to look into that or email them myself and ask where they got that. But I'm not personally concerned that it would create an underground illicit dog and cat market here. And the other states that have already enacted this for many years have not seen that happen, which, is important when I'm doing research. And, I always say, how's it going in the other states? Have there been any issues? And there hasn't been.
And maybe just to add on to exactly what you said, oftentimes when we see these underground markets emerge, it's because there's no alternative, legal alternative to acquire something.
Yeah.
And so in this case, obviously there are adoption centers in so many ways, like, you know, yeah, just through a different method. So still legally, there is an avenue for folks in an affordable way to get dogs.
Yeah, and also consumer choice. This isn't taking away from breeders or anything like that. Purebred dogs or any dog you'd like to acquire, still completely legal, just not getting a dog from a pet store that is most likely sometimes imported from puppy mills and kept in not the best conditions or taken away from their parents too young. And then often sick and then get destroyed when owners find out that they are sick.
Senator O'Brien.
Are there other pet stores in Vermont that sell ferrets, monkeys, those sort of things? So
Monkeys, I love it.
sugar gliders, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there are tons. And I mean, in South Burlington where I live, we have, and I believe in the fact sheet that I sent in that is posted, Petco and, PetSmart talk about, they don't sell dogs and cats. But yes, there are in South Burlington alone, we probably have like 5 or 6 pet stores that have reptiles, rodents, birds, fish, and yeah, ferrets. But yeah,
Hedgehogs.
yeah, I think, oh, now we're calling them smallies, right?
What?
Smallies is I think a term for the little hamsters and guinea pigs and other things. So those kind of animals I believe are at pet stores.
Hedgehogs are prohibited.
Oh, and sugar gliders.
Oh, God. Okay.
They make it into the state, but they're technically.
Oh.
Representative Pearl.
So I'm just curious along that same vein, why the delineation or the difference between cats, dogs, and every other pet? Is that because are well treated and
That's
that's an issue, or like?
That's an excellent question, and I've thought about that myself. And a lot of people are like, well, are you trying to push it further? And I'm not. I think it's because of the for me, it's and if you could, like I said, if you decide to take this up and have other folks with more lived experience in these natures express, the conditions that they are bred in are very different for the dogs and cats and imported from really inhumane conditions. And it's a different environment for them to be in tiny cages, spending their lives there, or bred just overbred and sick. I can't speak to fish or snakes and how, if they're in a cage, have the best quality of life, but I know that dogs and cats in these conditions are not well cared for, and it's unfortunate.
Senator Paul.
And just to add on maybe to what you just said, treatment, I think, can be helped or hindered by the market structure which these animal raising things fall under. So, with a for-profit entity selling dogs and cats, obviously you want your input to be the cheapest possible, and sometimes that amounts to different standards of raising these animals versus a humane society, which is kind of a not-for-profit institution that might, if the end goal is not to make a profit, but rather to, that might affect how the animal is raised.
That makes sense. Yeah. No, it's a great point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your coming in. And if you would like to stay, we're going to have
I would.
Michael Grady walk through the language of the bill.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
So this is H567 again, and it is on our webpage, but we'll have Mike bring it up as well.
Okay, so first things first, why don't we look at what the Agency of Agriculture So in order to be a pet shop, Vermont, you need a license from the Agency of Agriculture. A pet shop is a place of retail or wholesale business, including a flea market that's not part of a private dwelling, where cats, dogs, wolf hybrids, rabbits, rodents, birds, fish, reptiles, or other vertebrates are maintained or displayed for the purpose of sale or exchange. It's a retail or wholesale business. A pet dealer is any person who sells or exchanges who offers to sell or exchange cats, dogs, or wolf hybrids, or any combination from 3 or more litters of cats, dogs, or wolf hybrids in any 12-month period. This definition shall not apply to pet shops, shelters, or rescue organization. So F567 does not apply to pet dealers. It does not apply to animal shelters. It does not apply to rescue organizations. It only applies to that retail or wholesale place of business where those specified animals are sold. So you'll see in section 1, 20 VSA chapter 194, which is the chapter of law in which the Agency of Agriculture has authority to regulate the sale of pets. There's a new subchapter added that would prohibit, except as provided in subsection B, a pet shop shall not offer a dog, cat, or wolf hybrid for sale. Subsection B provides that the prohibition under A does not apply to a pet shop providing space to an animal shelter or rescue for an adoption fee, provided the pet shop does not have ownership interest in the animals and does not receive any fee for providing space or for the adoption of any of the animals. So they can donate space for a rescue or shelter to provide animals an adoption fee. In addition, as Representative Krasnow referenced, there is also a basic grandfathering clause. A shop that lawfully offered animals for sale prior to July 1 may continue to sell, provided that they have a valid license from the agency, they have the same ownership that existed on July 1, 2024, and they keep for sale or offer for sale only that number of dogs, cats, or wolf hybrids that it's sold in calendar year 2023. They can't sell more than they sold in calendar year 2023. So in order to qualify for the grandfathering exception, the pet shop has to provide to the Agency of Ag documentation of the ownership, as well as the number of animals offered for sale in 2023 and annually thereafter. Violation is a civil penalty, not more than $1,000, and shall be subject to suspension or revocation by the agency. Each instance of an animal being offered for sale in violation is a separate violation. So if they sell 5 puppies in any given time frame, that's 5 different violations of up to $1,000. There is a question of how this differs from California. California does not have the exemption for grandfathering. It does have the exemption for the sale or the adoption by animal controls or shelters or rescue groups, but it does not have a grandfathering provision in it. As to the black market, the black market used to exist, or there was a black market. It was called the backyard dealer exemption. It was there was a exemption from the pet dealer definition that said you didn't need a license from the agency if you were a pet dealer, if you were selling animals that were your own domestic pets. And so the agency would see, and the animal welfare groups would monitor classified ads, it's the same people offering puppies, week to week, month to month. But the agency would go to that house or the site where the animals were being sold, knock on the door, and the person was like, "Oh, these are my pets." And Mike Dwayne, who was the general counsel of the agency of ag at the time, said one time they brought us into the house and there were like 15 dogs on the bed and like 30 puppies like all running around the house. And they were like, we're a backyard dealer. These are our pets. We're just selling the litters from our pets. The backyard dealer exemption loophole was eliminated. If you're selling 3 or more litters of cats, dogs, or wolf hybrids, then you have to be licensed
In a 12-month period.
in a 12-month period. So that did end a lot of the black market from the backyard dealers.
Like, are animal shelters also licensed or regulated by the agency?
Great question. There's actually a bill in GovOps right now that would restructure all of not all of them, many of the animal welfare laws in the state, create a centralized animal welfare division, which would clarify the licensing of shelters and rescues. There are licensing requirements for shelters right now. It's a little bit of ambiguity for rescues, but they used to have to register. Now I can walk you through that at some other, right? But the bill in GovOps would create a really kind of typical structure for regulation of animal welfare.
There's a provision in this bill that allows shelters, that would allow shelters to sell to
Yep.
a pet shop.
Yeah.
Are there instances that you're aware of in Vermont currently where both of those activities are happening?
Sure. It's, the pet shop that I go to, they occasionally have the Greyhound Rescue Organization there where they adopt out greyhounds that have been rescued from wherever they have been rescued from. And they provide a space for the rescue and they allow for the adoption of the animal there and they don't charge a fee for it.
So participating in that practice would
Continue to be authorized.
and a new pet shop could set up
Yes,
in theory offering the same service.
yes.
Just a second, Representative Templeman.
I'm a little curious about, so after you've read through the bill, it seems a little hazy to me as to how, like, say, a farmer who breeds would fall under this. I'm thinking like a local farmer who breeds golden retrievers, say 3 litters a year. What would he have to be licensed as?
A pet dealer.
A pet dealer. Okay, and then he would be prohibited from doing this kind of work?
No,
Okay.
I mean, if he's a retail or wholesale business, which
Mhm.
is basically a site where you're advertising yourself as a pet shop, not a pet dealer, then he would be prohibited if he's never done it before in the past.
So that's the differentiation. Is it dealer versus shop?
For a pet shop, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And the dealer piece isn't changing.
Right. You have a kennel. Your kennel is licensed in your municipality, permitted in your municipality. You're selling 3 or more in a year. You need to be licensed by the Agency of Agriculture. You likely are also part of one of the breeder associations and or AKC or a similar organization, that continues to be allowed. There are instances where that has been problematic, where those pet dealers with licenses, they had licenses, they're been accused of animal welfare issues. There have been responses in those instances, and they're not numerous, but those dealers have been shut down. The reputable dealers are the ones that are doing everything that they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Really aren't subject or in need of enforcement.
Representative O'Brien.
Like, would a commission sales be considered a pet shop?
I'm sorry.
Would a commission sales, where livestock's taken and auctioned off? There's still one.
So livestock wouldn't be covered by this. There's an entire other chapter in law regulating the sale of livestock. So they're not covered here. It's just for a pet dealer, dogs, cats, wolf hybrids. For a pet shop, it's dogs, cats, wolf hybrids, and what the advocates do call the smallies, small.
So livestock raised as pets don't fall into this.
Can you give me an example?
Well, lots of people have like a pony.
Pony is an equine, pony is livestock.
So mini Highland cow.
The mini Highland cow, I just saw one of them recently, but
Rage.
that is still livestock.
Yeah.
I did go to the red list to see if I could find hedgehogs on the red list. And I haven't been able to find them on the red list. So I might have to, maybe they amended the red list, allowed hedgehogs in. I had to confirm that.
We determined that rabbits aren't chickens. Are they livestock? How do they work?
How do rabbits work?
They are both. They're not technically defined as livestock in the slaughter chapter anymore. But they can be sold for meat and under state law, and they can be sold as a pet, state law.
Would they be covered by this?
So as in a pet shop, yes, they are regulated under the pet shop law. If you are a retail or wholesale business selling them, you would be regulated as a pet shop.
But they follow like a smallie, they're in a
Right.
pet shop setting.
Right. Yeah.
So this isn't gonna prohibit the bunny mills from selling rabbits to.
It doesn't regulate. Right, it doesn't regulate anything below not below, that is not a dog, cat, or wolf hybrid.
Dog, cat.
Careful there.
Thematic.
We've been wondering for the better part of a year what a wolf hybrid is. Could you explain
I
this?
just had this question and I didn't know when I walked through the animal welfare bill. But it's basically any breeding of a dog with a wolf.
Oh,
And it's prevalent enough to have
There isn't.
that here with a separate.
Well, for a while, and it's been decades ago, they were kind of popular. And I don't know if you've ever seen one, like you go to the dog park and you're like, oh. But they are around.
Representative Templeman.
So just on a side note, I have some dogs that are considered wolf hybrid, but they're not wolf hybrid. Are there another category of dogs like working dogs, guard dogs that are also put in that category?
What kind of dog do you have?
Moremas?
Moremas are not technically wolf
Okay,
hybrids.
something I gotta talk to my local
Right.
select board about.
I mean, do you like leave them outside all day
Yes.
long and like all night long and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing? Yeah, I mean, they are working dogs.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
I happen to have, one of my sons owns a Czechoslovakian wolf dog. Are they
Is it a recognized breed? Cause there are a
Yes.
couple that like are,
he's overseas.
yeah. But if they're recognized breeds, then they're that breed. They're not the mating of the breed.
That's my understanding.
Emily, you were trying to jump in
Oh,
earlier.
I would love to add that, one thing that was really important to me was that, pet stores were still allowed and encouraged to have, organizations that offer adoption, come in South Burlington and Burlington area. We have tons of those events and they're so wonderful and, the agencies are so appreciative for that space. So that was something I made sure of, that was still allowed and encouraged and celebrated in our communities.
So I just found the hedgehogs. The African pygmy hedgehog is on the green list, so it's allowed, but it has to be US captive bred only. I guess you can have hedgehogs, but they have to be African pygmies.
All right, well, I think we'll close on that note. Thank you for all of that. Good night.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,